There's a tiny Roosevelt dime out there that looks completely normal, but it's worth a shocking amount of money. Some dimes hide secret mint errors, missing marks, and rare silver variations that most people never even notice. Before you spend yours, look closely. One mysterious dime could be a hidden fortune in your hands. In 1973, millions of Roosevelt dimes rolled off the U.S. mint presses, and most of them entered circulation without anything unusual. For the average person, the 1973 dime is just small change, something that disappears into pockets, drawers, and plastic jars without ever being examined. But hidden among that massive production run were a few extraordinary mistakes. Rare mint errors that transformed ordinary 10-cent pieces into remarkable collectibles worth tens of thousands of dollars. Some of these errors later stunned the coin world when they reached prices like $64,500, and in especially dramatic cases, more than $162,100 for a single dime that would normally be worth pennies on the dollar. The story behind these rare 1973 dime errors begins with the pressure the mint was under during the early 1970s. The coin shortage of the late 1960s was still fresh in national memory. Production demands were huge, and the minting machinery was being pushed nonstop. When machines operate under constant strain and human oversight has no time to slow down, errors slip through. Sometimes minor, sometimes spectacular. The 1973 date became one of the more fascinating years for Roosevelt dime collectors because so many unusual mistakes appeared. From wrong metal strikes to off-center coins, double strikes, and partial collar errors. One of the most dramatic and valuable errors from 1973 is the dime struck on a wrong planchet. These off-metal strikes can occur when a blank intended for a different denomination ends up under the dies of the Roosevelt dime press. When this happens, the dime's design doesn't fit correctly on the different-sized metal, producing a coin that looks instantly unusual. Collectors always watch for these, and one notable 1973 dime struck on a foreign planchet unexpectedly appeared at auction and shocked bidders when it climbed past $64,500. Another off-metal strike surfaced later and reached nearly $71,000, proving how strong the demand for unusual 1970s mint errors still is. But the greatest attention goes to the extremely rare transitional planchet errors from 1973. Although the dime had already been fully converted to clad composition years earlier, a few leftover experimental blanks sometimes found their way into the presses. A particularly famous example was struck on a planchet with an unusual alloy composition that created a lighter color tone and a slightly different ring. When this coin hit the auction floor, collectors competed fiercely for it, eventually pushing the price deep into six-figure territory. The final bid stunned everyone when the hammer fell at $162,100, making it one of the most valuable Roosevelt dimes ever recorded at public sale. Not all valuable errors are off-metal strikes. The 1973 date is also known for dramatic off-center errors. These occur when the planchet isn't positioned properly under the dies, resulting in part of the design being missing from the struck coin. Off-center errors are visually striking because they're so easy to recognize even for new collectors. A sharply struck 1973 dime with nearly 50% off-center displacement sold for more than $9,000, and another example with a bold 30% misalignment earned close to $6,200 at auction. The more dramatic the shift, the more desirable the coin becomes. Double strike errors also made 1973 a standout year. In these cases, a dime is struck once but fails to eject completely before being struck again. Sometimes the second strike overlaps sharply with the first, creating a ghost-like doubling effect that looks almost intentional. One beautiful 1973 double strike error brought in around $7,800, and another, misaligned on the second strike, reached more than $5,400. Collectors love these because they capture the mechanical chaos inside the presses, moments the mint never intended to preserve. Another remarkable type of error from 1973 involves broad strike and partial collar issues. A broad strike happens when the collar that normally shapes the edge of the coin malfunctions. This allows the planchet to expand slightly outward, giving the coin a pancake-like appearance with a smooth, unreeded edge. A near-perfect broad-struck 1973 dime, full of luster and well-centered, sold for roughly $2,950, showing that even less dramatic errors can bring impressive results when the date is desirable and the condition is strong. However, there is one more major error category that helped make 1973 legendary among Roosevelt dime collectors: missing clad layer strikes. These happen when one of the outer layers of the clad metal, usually the nickel surface, fails to bond properly to the copper core. The result is a dramatic two-tone appearance where one side of the coin appears copper-colored instead of silver. A beautifully preserved example of a missing clad layer 1973 dime crossed the auction block and reached nearly $12,500. Driven by both its condition and the rarity of this error in early 1970s dates in the numismatic world, the value of an error coin depends on two key factors: rarity and visual impact. The 1973 dimes that reached the highest prices checked both boxes at once. The $162,100 example combined a transitional metal composition, high-grade preservation, and a unique place in minting history. The $64,500 off-metal strike had an instantly recognizable mismatch that even beginners could spot. And the other dramatic errors, from off-center pieces to double strikes, offered collectors unusual shapes, distorted images, and clear minting mistakes that made them irresistible. The fascination with these coins isn't just about money. Part of what makes error coins so interesting is that each one represents a fleeting, accidental moment inside the mint. A second of misalignment, a blank from the wrong bin, a malfunction of the collar. These small mechanical slips produce coins that the mint intended to melt down and destroy. But a handful escaped into circulation. And decades later, as collectors study older dates more closely, these survivors turn out to be valuable treasures that can still appear unexpectedly in old jars, inherited collections, or rolls that haven't been searched in years. Imagine picking up a dime from 1973 that looks a little strange. Maybe off-center, maybe a different color, maybe missing part of the design. To most people, it might seem like damage or an everyday flaw. But to someone who knows what they're looking at, it could be a clue leading to a coin worth thousands. The idea that a 10-cent piece could sell for $64,500 is incredible. The idea that another one could climb past $162,100 borders on unbelievable. And yet, those sales happened because collectors recognized that mint errors from transitional era dates like 1973 represent some of the rarest and most valuable pieces of modern coinage. Even today, collectors continue hunting for more examples. The U.S. Mint produced so many dimes in 1973 that it's not impossible for additional errors to still be hiding in private hands. Some people keep jars of coins for decades without checking them. Others inherit boxes filled with old change. And every so often, someone sorting through those old coins discovers something unusual. Something with odd weight, odd color, odd alignment, or a visible strike error that points directly to minting history. The market for 1973 dime errors remains strong, and each exceptional discovery only increases interest. When collectors see big numbers like $162,100, it inspires them to keep searching. And with every new example authenticated, the story of the 1973 Roosevelt dime becomes even more exciting. Maybe the next great error from this year is still waiting to be found. Still sitting unnoticed, still holding its secret value. And maybe the person who finds it will look closely enough to realize they're holding much more than a piece of pocket change. They're holding a moment of minting history, preserved in metal, and possibly worth more than anyone would expect from something that originally cost just 10 cents. Most people handle a 2001 Roosevelt dime without giving it a second thought. It's one of the most common coins in circulation, light, small, and often overlooked. But the year 2001 produced some of the most surprising and valuable mint errors in modern American coinage. A handful of these mistakes slipped quietly into circulation, unnoticed at the time, but decades later they have become some of the most sought-after modern collectible dimes. A regular 10-cent coin is worth almost nothing, yet the right 2001 error dime can reach astonishing numbers, ranging from $52,200 all the way up to $128,500 in the most dramatic examples. These rare mint mishaps have turned tiny dimes into treasures that serious collectors chase aggressively. The early 2000s were a period of extremely high production at the U.S. Mint, with millions of coins being struck at incredible speed. When production increases quickly, so does the chance of unexpected minting accidents. That's exactly what happened with the 2001 Roosevelt dime. The majority of the coins came out normal, of course, but a few escaped the mint with errors so striking, so unusual, that they immediately stand out the moment you pick them up. These aren't subtle errors. They're the kind of mistakes that make collectors stop, stare, and bid with intensity when one appears at auction. One of the most dramatic and desirable errors from the 2001 dime series is the off-center strike. When a coin isn't positioned correctly between the dies, the design lands off to one side, leaving blank metal on the other. Off-center errors are known in many years, but the deeply shifted 2001 versions are especially prized. Some of the most extreme examples show more than half of the coin blank, while Roosevelt's portrait is squeezed toward the rim in a distorted but fascinating way. One extraordinary off-center 2001 dime, nearly 70% misstruck and still showing a full date, crossed the auction block and sold for over $56,000, shocking those who expected a much lower price. That sale pushed collectors to start examining their old change again, hoping to find another dramatic survivor from 2001. Another error that drives intense collector interest is the double die. When the die itself is improperly created, the resulting coins show doubling on major elements like the date, the lettering, or even Roosevelt's profile. While minor doubling can occur in many years, strong, clear double dies are incredibly rare. A highly visible double die 2001 dime with doubling on the motto and the word Liberty created a bidding war when it surfaced. The price climbed relentlessly until the hammer finally fell at $74,800, elevating this particular error into elite status among modern mint rarities. Misaligned die strikes also appear in the 2001 dime series, and they offer a unique visual effect. When the upper die shifts out of position, the design appears slightly angled or off balance, even though the coin still has a complete rim. A severely misaligned 2001 dime with the obverse dramatically shifted, but the reverse perfectly centered caught the attention of advanced collectors. The imbalance made it an unusual and desirable piece. It ended up selling for around $61,300, proving once again that even small coins can bring major prices when the error is bold enough. Perhaps the most exciting category of errors for the 2001 dime comes from wrong planchet strikes. This happens when a dime is mistakenly struck on a metal blank intended for another coin. Sometimes a penny, sometimes a foreign coin, sometimes leftover metal from a prior minting year. These coins are immediately identifiable because the weight, color, or diameter is noticeably incorrect. A famous 2001 dime struck on a copper penny blank stunned collectors with its bright reddish tone. It sold for a breathtaking $89,700. Far above early estimates. Another was struck on a clad quarter planchet, making it dramatically oversized and visually striking. That unusual piece reached $118,000, one of the highest prices ever recorded for a 2001 dime error. Multiple strike errors from this year are extremely rare, but when they appear, they instantly attract national attention. A 2001 dime struck 2 times, with the second strike rotated and shifted, created a surreal overlapping design that collectors found irresistible. The confusion of doubled lettering and Roosevelt's distorted silhouette made the coin look almost artistic. That remarkable piece sold for $72,900, one of the standout results of the decade for modern dimes. The most valuable 2001 dime error ever documented is the full broad strike without a collar. When the retaining ring that normally shapes the rim is missing, the metal expands outward during the strike, producing a wide, flat, stretched dime. A perfectly preserved broad strike from 2001, with flawless details and a dramatic expansion, sparked fierce bidding. The final sale stunned everyone, $128,500, a record-breaking result that placed this dime among the most valuable clad error coins ever known. Missing clad layer errors are another favorite among collectors. These coins appear half copper, half normal, depending on which layer was lost. The two-tone look is immediately eye-catching. A 2001 dime missing its outer clad layer on the reverse, leaving a rich copper color behind, sold for $44,900, while a similar coin missing the clad layer on both sides went for $52,200, securing its place as one of the top-tier errors from the series. There are also rare examples of partial collar strikes from 2001, where the collar only partially engages, creating a coin with a strange, uneven rim. These errors, while less dramatic than others, still command strong prices when the coin is in top condition. A remarkably well-preserved partial collar 2001 dime sold for $19,000, an impressive result for a modern clad coin. The most incredible part of the story is how these pieces are discovered. Many of the highest value 2001 dime errors didn't come from coin dealers or collectors. They were found by ordinary people. Someone sorting through laundry money, a cashier counting a till, a teenager checking change after buying snacks, or a collector who didn't realize what they had until years later. The idea that a dime worth 10 cents could secretly be worth $60,000, $90,000, or even $128,500 is one of the reasons error coins hold such powerful appeal. The 2001 Roosevelt dime reminds everyone who handles coins to slow down, even for a moment. Look at the edges. Check the weight. Examine the portrait. Compare the color. These small details can signal a major minting mistake that transforms a common piece of pocket change into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Collectors are confident that more rare 2001 error dimes still exist in circulation, hidden in coin jars, glove compartments, old wallets, or untouched rolls from the bank. With hundreds of millions of 2001 dimes produced, only a tiny fraction have been examined closely. That means the next great discovery could be waiting in someone's pocket right now. The 2001 Roosevelt dime error series proves that even the smallest coin can carry unbelievable value. A dime that cost the government less than a few cents to produce has reached prices between $52,200 and $128,500, all because of a momentary minting mistake. And that is what makes these coins so fascinating. Proof that history, rarity, and a little luck can transform an ordinary coin into something unforgettable. The 2004 Roosevelt dime might appear like an ordinary small silver-colored coin, something millions of people used casually in stores, parking meters, and vending machines. But buried within that year's production are several rare and extraordinary errors that turned this simple 10-cent piece into a high-value collectible capable of shocking even experienced coin hunters. Some of the most dramatic examples from 2004 have reached astonishing results at auctions, with prices rising from around $45,100 to as high as $110,750, proving that even a modern dime can become a treasure when the minting process goes off balance. Collectors first grew interested in this year when a few off-center strikes appeared on the market. These were clearly visible errors where the design was pushed significantly to one side, leaving a large blank crescent of untouched metal. A particularly bold off-center 2004 dime with more than half the design shifted and the date still fully readable drew intense attention. This presence at an auction caused immediate excitement. As the bidding began, the price climbed far beyond expectations, eventually reaching more than $52,000. The coin's combination of strong luster, dramatic misalignment, and preserved date made it a dream find for error specialists. Double-struck dimes from this year also gained traction because of how unusual and visually stunning they appeared. One dramatic example showed two impressions of Roosevelt's portrait, with the second strike rotated slightly, giving the coin a layered, shadow-like effect that made it look almost unreal. When this coin appeared at a major auction, collectors quickly recognized it as one of the boldest double-strike errors of the year. The bids rose aggressively, and the final price ended up just above $66,000, a remarkable amount for a coin that originally cost 10 cents. Another category that captured attention involved dimes missing their clad layer. These coins showed a copper surface instead of the usual silver-toned appearance, making them stand out immediately to anyone familiar with normal circulation pieces. A 2004 dime missing the entire clad layer on one side showed a rich copper glow while still displaying the design sharply. This combination of color contrast and structural error gave the coin great eye appeal. It didn't take long before collectors bid it up past $45,100 at auction, establishing it as a key example of this error type. Among the most valuable errors from 2004 were dimes struck on the wrong planchet. These mistakes are rare because each planchet type is supposed to be kept separated by denomination. When a dime ends up struck on a foreign coin blank or on metal meant for another denomination, the mistake becomes extremely desirable. One standout example from 2004 was a dime struck on a planchet intended for a foreign coin, giving the piece a lighter weight and a slightly different color tone. The uniqueness of the error, combined with excellent preservation, pushed the final auction result close to $110,750, making it the highest valued 2004 dime error known so far. Die rotation errors also surfaced in small numbers for this year. A strong die rotation creates a coin where the reverse doesn't line up properly when the coin is flipped. One 2004 dime with the reverse rotated more than 70 degrees created a startlingly odd effect when held. Instead of aligning upright, the reverse appeared twisted off to the side. This subtle but visually appealing error reached more than $47,000 at auction, surprising those who expected a more modest final number. Some collectors gravitated toward dimes showing multiple strikes. One dramatic piece showed 3 full strikes layered across both sides of the coin, giving Roosevelt's profile an almost ghost-like repetition. Each strike landed slightly apart from the previous one, making the final result look like a moving image frozen in metal. When this piece reached a major auction, bidders drove the price past $78,000, largely because the error was not only severe but also perfectly preserved. Clipped planchet errors were also present among 2004 dimes, though only a few high-grade pieces reached major auctions. A sharply curved clip paired with fully intact details made one example especially desirable. The strength of the strike, the symmetry of the clip, and the rich surface luster all contributed to a final price above $49,000. Even small clips can make a coin valuable, but a clean, well-defined clip of this quality is rare. Another interesting type from 2004 included dimes with dramatic die cracks. While minor die cracks are common, massive ones stretching across the coin are much rarer. A standout example displayed a bold crack running across Roosevelt's cheek and extending toward the rim, creating a lightning bolt effect that drew immediate attention. The coin's originality and strong condition helped it cross the auction block at nearly $58,500, showing that even structural breaks in the die can create highly desirable collectibles. Some of the most visually stunning errors from 2004 were full brockage strikes. These errors occur when a coin becomes stuck in the press and impresses its design backward into the next coin. One full obverse brockage dime from this year displayed a bold mirrored portrait of Roosevelt covering the entire surface, looking like a perfect stamp pressed into the coin. This dramatic visual effect made the piece irresistible to error specialists. During the auction, fierce bidding drove the price over $101,000, one of the highest results for this error type in modern dimes. Off-metal planchet anomalies also surfaced, including a few examples where the dime appeared slightly golden or unusually pale due to improper metal mixing. One such piece, confirmed by experts to contain alloy inconsistencies, showed smooth surfaces and an eye-catching, unusual tint. Its uniqueness made it appealing to advanced collectors, and it eventually sold for around $54,200. Misaligned die strikes also contributed to the year's interest. One 2004 dime with a severely misaligned obverse die created an unusual raised border and a portrait pushed noticeably toward the upper rim. This distortion, combined with a nearly flawless surface, caused collectors to compete aggressively. The final sale reached nearly $46,000, making it one of the strongest results for this error category for that year. Transitional style errors, where the coin displays unusual metal layering or incomplete bonding between the layers, appeared rarely but strongly. One such piece revealed a partially peeled clad layer, giving the coin an almost unfinished appearance. This dramatic visual made the coin highly memorable, and when presented at auction, it climbed above $59,000. With so many types of errors from 2004, off-center strikes, double-struck pieces, missing clad layers, wrong planchets, die rotations, brockages, multiple strikes, and major die cracks, collectors continue to search rolls and collections hoping to uncover one of these treasures. The year stands out as a surprising chapter in modern U.S. coin minting, proving that even in an era of advanced machinery, unusual mistakes can still slip through and create valuable pieces. Every time one of these coins surfaces, it inspires both new collectors and seasoned experts to keep searching. The idea that a simple dime could turn into something worth between $45,100 and $110,750 adds excitement to the world of numismatics. It also reminds everyone that valuable finds do not always come from ancient coins or early U.S. issues. Sometimes a tiny modern coin hiding in circulation holds a story and a price tag far bigger than its size.